What is the worst memory you have at school? My second grade teacher. MRS. Levoy. Throwing my assignment on the floor and yelling at me because she hadn't told us to bring it up to her desk. Yet. She liked to play evil games of Simon Says That way. A schoolmate talking to me about masturbation. Followed up by telling me he was doing it right now. And he was. We had a threat made and the middle was evacuated. They put all of us in the football stadium. We sat in 95F direct sunlight for about 2 hours. They tried distributing water but couldn't get enough. Once people started passing out, they moved us to the high school auditorium. It was a tight fit, but at least we had AC and reheated sandwiches for lunch. Nothing was found, and in the end our hall pass policy was stricter. There was also an adult monitoring the bathrooms at all times for the rest of the year. Getting my period and bleeding through my clothes. Walked around all day with blood on the back of my skirt until someone told me and I had to tie a jacket around my waist. This happened a few times in middle school. I had heavy periods and had to wear khaki clothes. Not as bad as my husband's worst memory, though. When he was in 9th grade. During an assembly, a student pulled out a gun. Shot at the ceiling once, sending everyone running and screaming, and then killed himself. Grade 5. Took my first and last tea in school. Some younger kids kept jumping into or under the stall. That happened to me in grade 3 when I was taking a piss. So after the first time a kid popped under the stall, I told him to stop doing that, and when he did it again I just pissed on him. Was peeing in the urinal. Kid F-king running start ninja kicks me in the back. My head smacks against the brick in front of me. Turn around, piss all over him. Punched him as hard as I could in the shoulder. It was resolved. Lol. Drama club kids making a game of seeing how far they could push me until I quit the school play once they got the other designated punching bag freak to quit. They wouldn't give me a copy of the script and someone only lent me a copy to photocopy once. I swore I wouldn't tell who let me have it. They'd move my stuff around whenever they found my latest hiding place. I got threatened physically. And got cornered and told what a FCK up loser I was a couple of times. They got me to stand at the very end of the cast photo and I was the only one that got cropped out in the yearbook photo. They did so much tea. If I detailed it all, it would be a wall of text. It kept me up for a while and I never went for another play even though I loved being on stage. But I never gave them tears and I didn't quit. My dad kidnapped us for the first time and put us in school. And my mother found us. She went to school to get us. I didn't want to go. Cause she physically abused me and I was kind of happier with the less abusive parent. I ran throughout the school as police officers. Teacher. And my mother looked for me. I think they found me in the bathroom hidden in a stall. It took them a bit to find me. But I remember not understanding why the school, the place I would escape to, would give me over to a woman who beat me. 8th grade. Got randomly puked on by a kid named Ben who sat next to me in class. Why me? 1st grade. My teacher wouldn't let me use the bathroom until my desk was organized. She was pretty mean in general. I really needed to pee. The rest of the class was dismissed. So it was just her and I. And I couldn't focus because I had to pee so f-king bad. So I did. Standing there. Then I promptly left and hoped no one would notice. Spoiler. Everyone noticed. When I went to prom my junior year and the girl I went with ditched me and I was left alone. Getting pantsed in front of an entire class of people. Pants and boxers. I wore boxer shorts to school because my mom told me people wore them as regular shorts. I did this in elementary school during summer camp. My mom didn't know what boxer shorts were. She thought they were just neat colored kids shorts. That's all she packed me for the entire week. In 2nd grade. The kid next to me at lunch poured his entire carton of milk all over my pizza. So I went to throw it away, but the lunchroom monitor said I hadn't eaten enough of it and made me take more bites of it, so I was just standing there crying by the trash cans and eating milk-soaked cafeteria pizza until I had achieved some arbitrary level of doneness. I had a good relationship with one of my teachers and it would be quite normal to joke around with her. She spoke to me once after a bad score on a test and said I need to apply myself better. I jokingly said, "Ossie, well, a pupil can only be as good as their teacher." She took it really offensively, like I was insinuating my laziness was her fault even though I was just joking around. Looking back, I can totally see why. I hadn't meant to be a jerk, but it was a total dick thing to say. I'm in my 30s now and still feel bad about it from time to time. It's one of those lay in bed at night thinking about past mistakes things. Probably at the beginning of 10th grade. I was getting a lot of stomach problems, plus anxiety and depression were hitting my life hard. So because of the problems above, I wasn't really going to school. I was barely eating anything. And I just wanted to sleep my life away. One of the school council teachers, that I was good friends with at the time, said that I wasn't trying hard enough and that my depression is a joke. I never talked to her again and I ended up switching schools in the middle of the school year. It was an extracurricular activity. But playing football, American, messed up my life pretty bad. I ruptured 2 discs in my neck and was told by my doctor I was lucky to not be a quadriplegic. After I told my coach the bad news. And I can either play again or risk not being able to walk. I was told thanks for letting me know. Nothing else. I became extremely isolated after that. My social life tanked. And I nearly got hooked on painkillers at 15. The amount of activity I can do at 23 is severely limited. I've already had 4 surgeries and have to go physical therapy intermittently to alleviate some of the symptoms. I loved football and weightlifting. I was getting close to break school records in weightlifting. Really wish I would have stuck to the weights. In the school I was in as a 7th grader, there usually was a celebratory school trip to an amusement park to mark moving on to the next step of the educational ladder. This one year, as we were the ones that were going and the day was closing in, I quickly noticed everyone was being much kinder to me and a couple other kids they used to pick on relentlessly. Even going as far as calling us friends and asking to play with us and all that kids stuff. Well, all the way up until the school trip was over and they went right back at bullying us like before. Turned out the teachers had told the parents of my classmates there would be no school trip if they could not get their kids to stop being bullies. Felt like a dagger to the spine when classmates who I had come to think of as friends simply just ghosted me and acted as we never knew each other's to begin with. If anyone asks why I have some trouble trusting people, it's stuff like this. In grade 1, my friend Colin and I were in the bathroom. And I leaned up against the stall doorway, not realizing my finger was in the hinge. Colin thought it would be funny to slam the door. And to this day I don't know if he knew my finger was there or not. But he swung that metal door closed so f***ing hard that he basically broke my finger in half without breaking the skin. I cried so hard that I got a nosebleed. And continued crying even harder until, to the discovery of all the faculty in the office, you can actually cry hard enough to bleed out of your eyes. I popped enough blood vessels that the whites of my eyes looked completely red. And as a result of the pressure on my face from crying so hard, I started crying blood. I'll assume this isn't just my worst memory of school, but maybe a few of the office people too. Since they had a small child with entirely crimson eyes with trails of blood streaking down his cheeks like a f***ing horror movie, screaming and pointing a crooked finger at them. Welp. When I was in high school, a classmate, girl, liked me and she was around me all the time. I didn't like her cause she acted childish thinking she was funny, but she was a pain in the ass to listen to. One day I was talking to another classmate. She kept interrupting and interrupting. I told her I was talking to X. She snapped and hit me. We both fell on the floor. I was grabbing her wrist so she didn't hit me anymore. Teachers arrived, and even though all the classmates told them I was innocent and that she was the one to start, but teachers didn't believe it. Cause I was a boy and she was a teacher's pet. I hated that school. Catholic. Private, expensive. Wouldn't teach T. You wouldn't pass an exam if you didn't lick the teacher's asshole. They just grabbed my parents' money and left me behind in class. When I moved to a public school, parents didn't want my scores raised to be almost perfect and classmates weren't psychos. In kindergarten I peed in the lunch line, and when I got back from changing there were kids sliding around in the water where they mopped it up. I was mortified. I'm sure I had worse things to happen, but this was the one that has stuck the most. I was bullied because I had dandruff. Anzopia, a bottle of Head and Shoulders. I got beat up by some 4th graders in 1st grade. When I went to the teacher about it, I was told not to be a tattletale. I was literally bleeding in front of her. What the actual FCK? I challenged one of my bullies to a fight. In high school, me and this dude from another school were fighting over this one girl. Well, one day we were out of town for an ROTC competition, and come to find out both of our schools were staying in the same hotel. He texted me to meet him behind the hotel to duke it out and said to come alone and he would be by himself. I told some of my buddies what was going on and was planning on going by myself. My buddies were like, no dude, he's going to jump you with his pals, we'll go with you just in case. I round the corner and sure enough he has about 3 or 4 other guys with him. It was kind of funny because when I rounded the corner and he saw me, he had this giant tea-eating grin on his face. As soon as my buddies came around the corner, that grin was gone when he realized it was going to be a fair fight versus me against 4 or 5 other teenagers. The 28th of April, 1999. A friend handed me a wadded up shirt as a birthday gift. Someone nearby saw the exchange and thought it was a weapon. Once the get to class bell rang, 6 admin staff escorted myself and 3 of my friends into the office for interrogation. Just short of being strip searched. Staff went through everything in my backpack, paper by paper. When they had nothing actionable, the guilt tripping started about how I was dressed. After 5 hours of interrogation, we were released to class with no excuse for the missed periods. So we had to deal with that as well. Encounters with the faculty continued until I finally graduated. I got punched in the balls once and chased the guy down. Ended up getting into more trouble than him. The school phoned my mom. I told her what happened when I got home. She called the school and spoke with my head of year. I didn't have to do the detentions after that call. Not really that bad looking back. Getting beat up or bullied from 1st grade up until 7th grade, but the worst was when someone tried to push me off the stairs. Getting pushed off of those stairs would most certainly kill you. They had an extremely sharp angle, and well, life has made me better, but I seriously had an extreme desire to personally take his life when I was 10. Man, those times were f***ing dark. In 3rd grade, my teacher would encourage the rest of the children to stare at the one that was acting up, and in some cases even record them, which would then cause the target child to cry. Sometimes I would be one such case. Thankfully, the counselor is the epitome of a blessing and would help me through my troubles a lot. In primary school, maybe around age 6, we had a theme day where everyone had to wear blue for some national history thing. I insisted to my mum that it was that day, but I was wrong. So I turned up wearing a blue jumper instead of my school uniform on the wrong day. To this day, I'm still completely paranoid about any event where you have to dress up. In my mid-30s now, and I still compulsively check dates for fancy dress events 100 times. Getting yelled at for shit I can't control. Kid. Jokes. Class. Laughs. Teacher. Don't laugh. You're encouraging his behavior. Like. Bitch. Bullying. It was absolutely horrible. Skis being put against a bathroom door once I entered the room in a small handful of instances. Grade 4, when I was informed my mom was coming to pick me up from school. I thought I was in trouble for missing homework, only to find out my dad had died. Seeing the Twin Towers on fire out the window. I was in Queens, so I was a safe distance away, but it was still terrifying. Especially because my father worked around the corner from the Twin Towers. Probably when the girl of my dreams asked me to prom in front of the class. I was anxious kid. Had a rush of anxiety. Immediately. Shot her down. Avoided her for the next 2 years for no f-king reason. Semicolon. We are both doing better now. She's married. Has a kid and I have a cat. School. When I was in 5th grade. I was feeling nauseous in my first class. And when I was about to stand up to ask for permission to go to the washroom. It was too late. I couldn't control it. But to avoid a mess in the classroom and spoiling the atmosphere, I puked in my palms joined together in the shape of a bowl. My palm bowl was filled with my vomit. It was so disgusting that I stood up and walked out of the classroom. I didn't ask for permission to leave and just looked at the teacher for 2 seconds. I went to the nearby washroom and cleaned myself in the basin. It was the worst and the most gross experience I had in school. My 3rd grade teacher used to take my shoes and throw them outside when it was -30°F. This was Alaska, and make me get them. I also grew up with an enlarged spleen. So I didn't have an appetite. One day he weighed an overweight girl in front of the whole class. Then he weighed me. There was a difference. He would throw me in the large trash cans after lunch while the class watched and laughed. He put snow down the backs of students' shirts. He's in jail now. Realizing that the whole school was corrupt and that favoritism existed everywhere. My school didn't give one sh*t about you unless your parents donated money or you made them money, e.g. the high academic achievers, sportswomen, musicians, etc. I was diagnosed with ADD at the time. And my special ed case manager makes sure the school accommodates any special needs a student may have, treated me like I was just being lazy and using ADD as an excuse. Sometimes as much as 3 times a week. She would pull me out of class and drill into my head that my value as a human being depends on what college degree I get. If I couldn't whip up a 2-page essay on the Canterbury Tales in 20 minutes, I wouldn't graduate. I wouldn't make it into college. And I would spend the remainder of my days saying welcome to Walmart for a living. Well, I graduated 5 years ago and did just 2 months of trade school. And now I make more than she does working a job I love. So I think I won in the end. We had a school trip taken away from us because someone pulled the fire alarm before a DD presentation. Everyone was pissed we were already getting to go outside and leave school early after the DD presentation was over and everyone was looking forward to the next day and going to the park. A couple days later, and several false alarms later, the fire department announces they've found a faulty alarm. No one pulled it. No one tried to sabotage the DD presentation, there was a connection error. They never gave us our trip or money for it back. Great lesson in learning that life enjoys telling you to go FCK yourself. I went to an extremely snobby school in the north. I very begrudgingly admit. However, it was a very good school academically, rated very high academically nationwide. And trust me, they reminded us of that constantly. Nonetheless, I have told many stories on my high school. Despite its academic rigor, it had absolutely no common sense in administration. Fun stories of my high school includes closing campus to sophomores coming in the next year because the current sophomore class was acting up during lunch. But they became juniors, so the new rule didn't apply to them. Another fun one I've told before was how when we first got the internet, PRN came up on my screen. It was a total accident, but I was not believed and I was suspended. Then it happened to other students and staff. Then they realized it was a problem and got filters. But they never acknowledged their mistake. I do not miss high school at all. Having my year 7 ex send his new girlfriend to come up to me and hand deliver a note from him saying how much he doesn't like me. Never liked me. Is with ex now because I actually do stuff and signed it off by saying that I would be nothing more than a reciprocate Magetto Psi. He meant frigid. After delivering the note, she then yelled at me to read it. Watched me burst into tears. Knocked my books out of my hands. And her BFF spat on me. They're actually still together to this day. Actually. Good on them. I guess. Remember this. Assholes seem to find each other.